Hi, I'm Chris Harchis, better known as the Grumpy Programmer online. I've spent a lot, and I mean a lot of time showing people how they can learn to write simple, effective tests for your PHP code. While teaching people, I've come to learn that there are a lot of misconceptions about what testing is all about. I've been building web applications using PHP since 1998, making me some sort of historical relic. If there is one thing that I have noticed in my career, it's that every programmer makes mistakes that end up getting found by the people using the web applications. For many people, the realization that they need automated testing only happens after they experience a catastrophic failure on a project. Luckily for me, that happened very early in my career. In the early 2000s, I was working on a team that was building an online dating site. It was a very typical PHP application of the time, presentation logic mixed in with the display logic. As we got closer and closer to the launch, the death march started. I worked 120 hours of overtime in 6 weeks leading up to Christmas. We launched, and things were terribly broken. We scrambled to pick up the pieces and fix the biggest problems first. After taking some time off post-launch, I vowed to myself I would never, ever go through that experience again. I would rather quit my job than work those kind of crazy hours again. After discussing the disaster with the project manager, I noticed that he had a copy of the book Extreme Programming on his desk. I borrowed it and found a section in it on unit testing. I was hooked. You have to remember something important. This was before the rise of web application frameworks in the PHP community, and PHP Unit didn't even exist yet in any kind of stable form. So I got to work learning how to use Simpletest, which was one of the few PHP unit testing tools available at the time. It was the beginning of my journey into becoming a testing evangelist. I soon found people talking about a practice known as test-driven development, or TDD. It was the practice of write a test for a small module, or unit as they called it of code, as if it worked already. Then write the code until the tests pass. Repeat until you have tests for every unit of code you have written. It sounds deceptively simple, doesn't it? A nice, repeatable process that is hiding a bunch of very important things behind that simple feedback loop. TDD is not really just about the test. Sure, it has the word test right at the front of it, but if you want to be really honest about it, the tests are simply an outcome of TDD as a design pattern. I'm sure some of you have come across the infamous Gang of Four design patterns book. Design patterns are a way of creating solutions to problems that programmers come across while building applications. If you learn how to identify when a certain design pattern is applicable to your problem, you have a head start on how to structure your code. Of course, you have to be careful that you don't start seeing design patterns everywhere. Your code base will end up a total mess. So when I say TDD is a design pattern, what do I mean? I mean that what TDD does is force you to think about what your code looks like at the unit level. This sort of thing makes many developers uncomfortable because, well, they're unsure of what it is they want to do. But Grumpy, I know what my app is supposed to look like already. I need to play with it and change things. How am I supposed to deal with that? I understand. It seems very intimidating and totally normal. I like to use the Lego analogy. In my experience, applications that are built using tests that are written at the same time you are writing the code end up feeling like they are as easy to put together as snapping together Lego blocks. Sometimes when you build something, you realize that you need a different block than what you initially thought you needed. So you go and find another block that might be a better shape or larger or smaller, whatever it is you need to do to make it fit. That's what TDD lets me do, create little building blocks made out of code that I snap together to do some awesome stuff. I know I've covered a lot, but we are just getting started. I was once just like you. I knew nothing about unit testing, TDD, or that more than a decade later, I would be standing in front of wonderful people just like you. In our next video, I'm going to talk about the different types of automated tests that you might want to think about using.